Hello and welcome to The Beth Effect. I'm your host, Beth Clifford, and today I have my husband, Brad, with me.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. He is joining me today because we are going to do a special episode dedicated to our 15-year anniversary, which we just had. And we're kind of going to go over just some transparent and authentic things on marriage. I prepared like 5 questions for Brad, and he's going to answer and I'm going to answer after.
I'm glad that we both took notes.
Yeah, like I made him take notes. I have papers in this one because I'm like, okay, well, I literally do want you to think about this before we answer because, they're pretty like honest questions that hopefully it's basically the things that we feel like we've got right and we've got wrong through our journey in marriage, having met, married, divorced, remarried. So we want to share that. Before we get into it, though, I just want to thank my sponsor, Elevation Health. I had surgery 3 times in one day this week, which was not planned. It was supposed to just be one surgery, but some things went wrong. But thanks to Elevation, I have a really good post-surgery protocol to just kind of help me get my gut back in shape. Unfortunately, I had to have some antibiotic shots, also speed up my recovery and just help with sleep. So that's just a little bit of what they do. But as you know, I like to just talk about one thing each week, and I'm grateful for them for helping me with my recovery. So here we are.
Here we are.
Here we go.
Here we go.
So we've got 5 questions that I have asked, and I'm going to have Brad go first, and then I'm going to have me go. And I just want to say before preface this, like I would describe, we have 3 children. We have very busy jobs. Brad runs his own company. I work in corporate America and then obviously have some side gigs like this that I do. We are like in the thick of life in our late 30s, and I still would describe our marriage as a happy one, but we wanted to be really transparent and not lecture people on what you should be doing to make your marriage better, because I don't like those. We're not marriage experts, but I do want to be transparent on some of the things that we've done right and some of the things we've done wrong, and hopefully you can either relate or it helps. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to disclaim? I mean, like, but I just can't, like, it's that like meme of like, but I don't know at the end, like I can't be liable for anything we share. Medical disclaimer. We're not marriage therapists.
Yeah. No, I think that, we'll be really transparent. And I think that we'll have an honest conversation because it's the only way that we know how to operate. But also I think that many people can relate to, I think what we go through, although it may look a little bit different, I think the fact is we're busy.
We're busy.
We have our own hobbies.
Perfect.
We have our own hobbies. We have our own, aspirations. We have a family.
Life, Kyle. Just kidding.
And but also, like, we genuinely like each other.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about those things.
Yeah, we get some things wrong and we've gotten some things right. And so we're just kind of going to share.
Am I supposed to be facing you?
No. I'm just comfy. Okay. You can sit however you want.
Okay.
Because this is on YouTube now. Did you know I'm on YouTube, Brad?
I subscribed.
Oh,
I literally subscribed on Thursday.
Oh,
so you're welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome, yeah.
Although I was in surgery. Okay, I'm going to have you start off with what we've got right when it comes to communication and boundaries. What do you think? Share your thing.
Yeah, I think that the things that we have gotten right from the beginning, and definitely it's matured over the 15 years, is that I think that we set from the very beginning like an expectation to be brutally honest and clearly communicate where we are in all things.
Do you think we did that from the beginning?
For the most part, I think there was a hiccup in a piece of it, but yeah.
I think we set that intention for sure. Like we don't lie to each other, but I do think that in the beginning, like for myself, I had a really hard time as a woman communicating honestly. Like I feel like I didn't lie to you, but I was figuring out how to communicate honestly.
Yeah, well, yes and no though. I'll agree with you, but also in your defense, you have easily communicated when you're very clear on what that expectation is or like what you want.
This is not expectations, Brad. This is communication and boundaries.
But communicating it. And, your boundaries. Okay. Sorry, I should say not expectations, your boundaries. From the beginning, you were able to do most of that some people takes 20 years to do.
Yeah.
But there's other parts that you've definitely had to develop. A good example is like when we first started dating. I was not probably the most committed individual.
Yeah, I had to set that boundary pretty early.
And you had to set that boundary. And you did it very clearly, and it was for my 20-year-old self. Yeah, 19-year-old self was like hard to understand. because I was just kind of didn't have anyone ever push that on me.
I didn't, just to fill you guys in here, I didn't like set an ultimatum, but we were hanging out, we were starting to like kiss and be physical, and I just let him know, like, hey, just so you know, I don't expect you to only be kissing and being physical with me. If you want to go be that way with other women, that's great, but my boundary is I don't want to be that way with someone that's doing it with other people. So if you're choosing to be physical with me, I expect you to not be doing that with other people, just because that's my standard. But you have your choice. If you're with me and then you choose to go with other people, then we can still hang out and be friends. Yeah, but like, do not be physical with me and be physical with other people. Because it was my boundary that I was like, if you respect me, please do not cross this boundary, because I feel really uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, and I wasn't used to that.
Yeah, no doubt.
The point is, though, you were very clear. Like, you were very clear. You weren't a dick. Like, we genuinely had, like, it was early. But we genuinely liked each other and had, like, a lot of fun. But you were clear about boundaries and what would be considered an uncomfortable conversation. I think that we have lent in all the way into that from the very beginning. Yeah,
that's true. I forgot about that conversation, honestly.
But there's many of those examples throughout, even when we, our first marriage.
Yeah, and our second.
But you have developed a clear way to describe some of your feelings and just kind of your how you want things to be, I think, more over time.
I think the key, what I have here, what I've written down is what we've got right is over communicate. Like, particularly the one person where you feel like your spouse is the one person, in my opinion, you shouldn't be editing the way that you think or feel to. And so my advice here, and one thing that I think we've gotten right, is to over communicate. Even if you feel like that piece should be buried in the grave, like, I am the person that will like rip out of the coffin and be like, okay, and one more thing on this. Like, I have to get it out of me, otherwise I simmer. And I've learned that about myself. So like, over communicate, even if you feel like it's like you've beaten the dead horse, it doesn't matter. Like, over communicate how you're feeling. Because a lot of the times you're working through how you feel with them, and they're the one safe place that you should be able to do that with. Yeah. And then for boundaries, I just feel like throughout our marriage, something we've gotten right and we've done really well is respecting the other person's boundaries when it comes to us, but also when it comes to other people. So there have been times in our marriage where, someone has done something to like hurt me, for example, and I'm like, okay, my boundaries, I can't be around that person anymore. And without even questioning, we have kept that boundary. Even if it wasn't directly affecting you, you have lumped in with that boundary. And we have set couple boundaries, like as far as like us as a couple. If one person needs a boundary somewhere, the other person has always been on board with that, like no questions asked.
That's never been an issue.
That's never been an issue. I do think that that's what I have put, like something that we have done right. So at the end of the day, communication and boundaries, like, you are on the same team. And I do think it's one of those things, and it's really hard to do sometimes, where it's like praise in public and critique in private. And I think that like, you just to remind yourself, even in the moments where your spouse is just like so bloody annoying, that you're on the same team. Like, and in public, you should be seen as being on the same team. Yeah. Right?
And I just have 2 more points.
Just 2 more? We just had 2, Brad. Like, honestly, okay, you've got 20 seconds. Go. Okay.
First one was good boundary setting.
Thank you.
The first one was developing in our communication, me not trying to fix everything that you're saying. That's something that I've had to work on. But on the opposite end of it, I think something that I've had to work on is setting some of my like boundaries and situations.
Yeah. Your boundaries to me is like, please don't use these specific words when you're talking to me, because they trigger me in my childhood, or like, I don't like being called this name, specifically idiot. Yeah. I just think like, he always will say when we're fighting, do not call me an idiot. Like, I do not like
names
that.
Don't help in communication.
Okay, yeah, but still when you're mad, names come out. And then you're right. Like, as far as like when you do start to communicate, asking, hold on, are you venting or do you need advice? Because that was something that would really bother me. I just need to vent, and you'd be trying to give me advice, and vice versa. And I think,
but when you're not emotional, it's so funny because we have some of the most in-depth conversations, and very, I would call, like, not superficial, like really in depth.
Deep.
So deep, yeah. But so when you're emotional sometimes, or you need support, I'm going to that realm. I'm like, oh man, we have such deep conversations. So I'm like in that zone, but I've had to learn that certain boundaries in certain situations for you are better.
Yeah.
So, just like you have too.
Okay, let's move on to number 2. What have we got wrong with expectations and patience in our marriage? I'll have you go first. And to set an expectation.
I went first last time.
Okay, you want me to go first? Yeah. Okay, just one thing, Brad. Okay. What have we got wrong? So here I will say for expectations and patience. I have assumed so many times, and still doing lots of times, that you are a mind reader. So like it kind of, even though I communicate, I sometimes expect you to just like, have you ever caught yourself as a spouse like cleaning in the kitchen, for example, and like slamming doors and being loud to prove a point so they can hear that you're cleaning, so that they can read your mind to come help? And sometimes it's like, why didn't you help me with this? And you're like, why didn't you ask? And I have to remember like the expectation of you wanting the house to be surgically clean as much as I do is just not a realistic expectation, and never will be. And so like I always expect you to read my mind in that, and I think that I still have that really hard. That's really hard for me in our marriage. Like my unrealistic expectation for how clean and organized everyone in the house should be, because I am, is really hard for me. And then patience, I think for me, honestly, and this is like very transparent, I think what's has been hard for me with patience is that like when you see someone's potential, particularly your spouse, like you see your spouse's potential, you want them to be there, always be reaching for their top potential 24/7, and it's not realistic. And there's a lot of, I think it's really hard being patient to watch them develop on their own time to the full potential that you see. And I struggle with that sometimes. So I'm just like, come on, I know you can, get there faster. I like what I see you can do. Why do you need a rest today? Like, why are you not like, and I think that it's unrealistic again, and it's the patience factor for me, but I have to work on that, and it's still something I get wrong. And then I can catch myself with these moments of like, no one performs at a 10 out of 10 all the time. And so I sometimes expect that of others, but then don't expect it of myself. And I think that there's patience in like letting your spouse get to their potential on their own time. Because if you're forcing them to get there, or you're nagging them to get there, you have to be patient with them. That's still really hard for me. So anyway, how about you?
Yeah, I have to just know. Mind
what
read.
Do you mean?
Just a mind read. So that's my first one.
Too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got that wrong.
What do we get wrong? For you just expecting me to just know?
Both of us. Yeah. We got that really wrong.
No, not both of us. You got to talk about yourself. Don't lump me in.
Well, yeah.
I lumped me in mine.
So I think the one is just to know, but also I think what I got wrong was I had an idea that love was like love matching for some reason.
What does love matching mean?
Like it's just constant reflection back.
Oh.
Like this, like tennis match, like this, which is a 50-50 framework. And I've had to restructure love, and I'm not perfect at it, but like when I'm thinking about loving you from like, expectations and patience, I love you at 100% as much as I can, irregardless of if like some of my needs aren't being met or those things, right?
Yeah.
Kind of things. So that's the part that I think is really important, because when relationships are like magical is usually when you're meeting each other at 100%. But that is inconsistent because we're all human.
Well, and I disagree with that. I don't think it's only magical when you meet each other at 100%. I don't think that. I think it's magical when you give each other the grace when they're not matching at 100%. And you're actually recognizing, like, for example, if we were to be really blunt with expectations here, like if I had to summarize our fights in 2 buckets, for me, I get triggered when I am so organized and clean and OCD.
But like American Psycho.
Like
clean and
I
organized.
expect the house
like
at all times to look like no one's living in it,
yeah,
and be immaculate.
Yeah, like bleached floors.
But I do leave a trail of like non-existence behind me. So I expect everyone to be that way. And the reality is that you are one of the most disorganized and unclean people truly that I've ever met.
Not
like
unclean.
Yeah. Like not you physically as your body. Like you are a clean person, but your surroundings, you do not clean up after yourselves. Like you leave, like you cut your hair, there's hair, like, you know, hair in the sink. Like you live, your body's, your brain's thinking of 7 other things. And I'm thinking of like, why have you made eggs? Like why is the pan not cleaned up and no trace of you in the kitchen before you sit down to eat the eggs? So that is the root of most of my arguments that get stemmed from me is the expectation that you should be as clean as I am. And it's just not a reality. Most people that I've ever met aren't as clean as I am. So it is an unrealistic expectation.
Before, like 15 years ago to now?
Oh, no, exactly.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of that, most of the fights coming from you is your expectation that your wife wants to have sex 3 times a day, and that you're just like, you know, why? Oh, we have like we're both working from home and the kids are gone. Like, let's just go have sex real fast. And I'm like, are you insane? I'm thinking of like 7,000 things. So you are like charged that way, and you're such a physical touch person that your unrealistic expectation is that 24/7 I'm thinking of you and sex. And so when that is not the case, which it isn't, it's a letdown for you, and that can sometimes trigger arguments from your standpoint. So it's just these 2 unrealistic expectations that we have of, I mean, and that's just as transparent as I can be. Like most of our arguments comes down to one of those buckets that we have, right?
Yeah, the majority.
Yeah.
But like there's so much less now.
Oh, so much less because we understand it and we like make an effort.
But it's taken a lot of work.
But 15 years of it. But like I think when it comes down to unrealistic expectations, I really do think most of them come down to those 2 things. Yeah. Like
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
And I'm sure they can, and you're not alone, and that's fine.
You just like look into the camera.
Look at the camera. You're not alone. Okay. Yeah. There is nothing wrong with you, and you do not need to send help. Okay. Next one. Oh, good?
I just had one little.
Oh, no. Brad.
I think, yeah.
What is it? Unrealistic expectation that this should be an hour.
Is when you get curious though, like, and you've gotten a lot better at this, but I've gotten a lot better at this too, is like, why are you mad? Not just like, oh, she's mad, you know, or something like that, or she's frustrated. Like to seek to understand, really just kind of clearly trying to get into that, like what it, like have patience with it. Not just that she's mad, like what's causing this mad, and then being patient through it, but also seeking to really understand it helps out a ton.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Next one. Thanks for that.
You didn't care about that one at all.
Okay.
Super rude.
Next one. What if we got wrong?
Clear boundary of being a dick right there.
What have we got wrong? Taking each other for granted. You go first on this one. Where have we got this wrong?
I think that, so I think that we have a really unique relationship too, that we're really good friends. First, we're really into each other, but we were really good friends from the beginning, which is a blessing in our relationship. It truly is. Yeah. But sometimes we can default into just friends and business partners. And I think that when that happens, I can take you too much for granted as being my best friend and someone that I respect outside of just a romantic way. Like,
what do you mean by this? Like, you feel like I should start billing you per hour or what?
Well, no, can't afford you.
True. But what do you mean? Like, can you elaborate?
But yeah, like I think that at times that you can just, again, it's back to that like 50-50, 100-100 kind of thing. I think at times like I can just be like, oh, she can be all things to all people, including me, and get kind of in like that taker energy. I think that I can get there at times, and I think that I've had to work on that a little bit. You know, I think that like my default is that love is powerful and it's like all bonding, which I don't disagree with. But what I've learned is that it's leveraging that tool is the most important, which is like maintenance. And so if like I'm just taking from you and I'm not pouring back into you, it can add up and could be very resentful, I think.
Yeah, I could see that. I think what I wrote is kind of similar, but not. But I would describe it as like there are just like times in your marriage, and I think there are times in our marriage, if you look back, where some people, just because of circumstances, have a paper plate and some people have a steel plate.
Yeah.
So if you have a paper plate, there's only so much load you can put on before that paper starts to like fold or bend, or like it can't. Whereas a steel plate, it's like I can handle more, put more on my plate because I can. And I think that there are times like pregnancy comes to mind for me. Like when we had when I was pregnant and I had a paper plate. and you had to have a steel plate. And it feels unfair in those moments. And I think there are times we got that wrong really bad, where it was like, it can't always be 50-50. Sometimes it has to be 80-20. Sometimes it has to be 100-0. And if I'm in a moment where I'm having a paper plate moment and I need you to put more on your steel plate, it's really hard to not be resentful in those times or to count all the times that you had a steel plate. And that's what I think, like, for me, it's just like, how many times have I loaded my plate as a steel plate when you had a paper plate? Could you mother effing do this for me now? And it's just that communication of, you know, now when my job is like takes me traveling and yours is home, so you do a little bit more with the kids than you ever have before in our marriage because you were always traveling before. So when it comes to the kids, you've got, in some circumstances, more of a steel plate. But then when it comes to mental bandwidth and projects and stuff, my job, I've been with the company for 10 years, so it's not as mentally stressful as yours as an entrepreneur. And there's a lot of things where, like, you're a paper plate and I'm a steel plate. And I think that we have not always got this right, because it's when you're having to turn to the other person and say, I need you to kind of take on more right now because I can't. It's really hard not to try and tally up all the times that, like, they have or haven't done it. But when you can, I think that's when we've got it wrong. But one thing, I think it just comes back to communication. Like, if you can communicate and be like, no, I need you to take this on. I cannot take it on right now. Or like, even like this weekend, I had surgery 3 times. Like, I'm in pain and I can't move. Like, I need to lay down. I need you to just like cancel that plan, or like go deal with this with the kids, because I had a paper plate and you had a steel plate. So I think it's just more of like overly communicating in those times. So we've definitely got this wrong. It's something that we are constantly working on, because I think it constantly changes.
It's fluid.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it can go day by day, it can go month by month, it can go hour by hour sometimes. So it's just really hard, because it's like the mind reader and the communication piece is key. But we're doing so much better at this. But like, I think that taking each other for granted, if I were to look back, that's probably one of like when we've had the hardest times in our marriage. It's probably more to do with that than anything else. Mm-hmm. Do you think? Or what? That's just my opinion.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
But I think that most...
Oh, you got more to add? Okay, what? I would love to hear it. I'd love to hear it. What is it?
I love that you had me start over this whole podcast, and you're the one being a dick.
No, I'm dead serious. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. What do you?
I do. Yeah. I'd love to hear it. So I just went, sorry, I interrupted you.
I think that I agree with you, but I think that where we've gotten this right is that even though like the tactical skills have been developed and continue to be developed, like the day-to-day pieces of like how to do it, I think though at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, like our loyalty when it's like to each other has been ever tested, like really tested. Yeah. We've always decided to choose each other.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I think that that's my only 2 cents is like, that's the biggest piece of it, is like the only way that you can completely ruin a relationship is if that piece is not there. And luckily we've had that, and we've only had to develop like skills and refine our moment to moments.
Yeah, that's thanks for that ad.
You're welcome.
I'm serious. I think that was a good one. Thanks, Brad. Okay. I'm not being sarcastic. Okay. Next, 4th one. What have we got right when it comes to handling conflict right away?
Am this me or you?
Let me go first. I just think that we are both very passionate people, and anyone who knows us, like, I don't think that, well, I've had people describe me as emotional, which is like kind of crazy, because I actually think I'm very in control of my emotions. But if I'm showing you my emotions, it's because they're that insane in the moment, or like that person's that out of line. That's just my 2 cents. But I do think that it is extremely obvious when either one of us is bothered, like to each other, to anyone who's around us. We are not people who sugarcoat. Neither of us are.
No.
People who can hide it when we're frustrated, annoyed, think someone's an idiot talking to us, like whatever it is.
Is it Cillian Murphy? What's his name? The actor?
Cillian Murphy.
Cillian. Yeah. That's right. Sorry. He's Irish, right?
He is Irish.
Yeah. Cillian Murphy. It's like the Cillian Murphy meme. Both of us have it, like we have to work on not doing that.
I have been told multiple times that I have to change the way that my face looks so it doesn't show what I'm feeling. And I just, even with all the Botox in the world, I'm sorry, but it just, it's very obvious. So having said that, and you're the same way, having said that, it is very apparent when one of us is frustrated in public, in private. So what we have always done is if something's annoying or we're upset about, or there's conflict at all, honestly, I guess what we do right is that we handle it right away. There's no chance it could be hidden.
Zero chance.
You know?
Yeah. The only part that we've had to work on is, and we've gotten so much better at this, is like not making it personal too much.
Yeah, it's hard. It's
and
hard in the moment, though, isn't it?
It will speak for yourself.
Hard for me in the moment.
It's a lot easier
in the moment.
I've made major leaps. You're making strides. But
it's really hard for me in the moment not to make it personal, but we cannot. It's not one of those things that people, in fact, I remember, can I share a story? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
But I remember back in the day, I'm one of 7 children, and we all went to, we would all go stay in the same beach house. And I remember at the beginning of the week on this beach house, and there were like, how many of us were married? 5 of us were married at the time. And on the very first day, granted, we had 2 little children in car seats, and we're like, squished into one bedroom, and like we're unpacking, like tempers are high and whatnot. And like Brad and I are bickering, and it's just like, Brad, can you just, and I just like, oh my gosh, just like go do this. And then you'd be like, Beth, like relax, we're at the beach. Like we were just like bickering and having like, I guess it made my mom and other siblings, not all of them, but some of them, uncomfortable. My mom made a comment to me that was like, can you and Brad just like not argue in public because it makes us feel uncomfortable? And I remember looking at her and being like, absolutely cannot promise that. Like and I said, but guess what? We get annoyed and everyone else is looking at us like we're about to get divorced. We get annoyed and bicker. We go upstairs and pack. And then when we're at the beach, we're completely normal and back. Like it's
truly,
we're literally over it. Like we have it out. We over it. It's like water off a duck's back. Whereas the rest of the week, all of the other married siblings slowly were like stacking up the things that they were annoyed about, and they weren't talking it out. And by the end of the week, I'm like, okay, what is actually going on with you guys? Like, could you just go talk it out? Do you remember like my sister's ex-husband now, but like they were having conflict, and they were like having hushed words at the beach, like we couldn't tell. And then she walked away and he flipped her off behind her back, and I was like, buddy, no.
We're never disrespectful though.
No, well,
we make people uncomfortable.
We do make people uncomfortable
because we're honest about the conversation.
But I don't mind that.
But I don't think you've ever been like disrespectful. And if you have, I can't think of one where you've been like disrespectful to me in public.
No, I've not flipped you off in public, like without it being a joke.
Or me ever call you like a bitch or something. Yeah,
no,
never.
And we've experienced that with family members when they suppress their conflict. So I'm not saying everyone has to have it out in public like we do. And we don't have it out, like we're not yelling at each other, but we just...
This doesn't happen that often. I've always known this about you, is that you forgive me and you reestablish. So like it is very rare for you to long resent. And you're not perfect, but like the minority of times that you have held a resentment, like usually it comes out. But like anytime that you're bothered or anytime that it's like a thing that's actively annoying you, we have it out. But I always know that when we do, it's not like you're going to hold it against me when we wake up or like sometimes even like in an hour.
Sometimes less than that. Oftentimes
like
you just have
10
to get it out. And
Yeah.
I'll even sometimes tell you, and you like missed a fix it once or like fix it. And I'm just like, I'm just bothered. Could you just give me 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm going to get over this, but right now it's bothering me. Just leave me alone for 10 minutes now. I promise you I'll be over it. And I think that was really hard for you in the beginning because you thought it was a trick.
But I did. No, I did.
You thought I was testing you to be like, oh, is he going to leave me alone? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
If you leave me alone, I will get over this.
Which is like conflicting information if you listen to like social media and stuff like that. But anyways, to reestablish though with you is that you've always been you've developed this even more like as we've had a longer relationship to reestablish connection though. So like even if it's like an uncomfortable conversation, like we have uncomfortable conversations, everyone does, but sometimes they're like really uncomfortable. You don't let that like energy like disassociate ourselves like for that long, even if it's a day. Like you are really good to reestablish like a level of connection.
I just think once you've had it out,
because I'm like tactile.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
think
I'm not saying sex, but like
no, I get it.
You know what I mean?
I think when it comes to handling conflict in any relationship, marriage, friendship, whatever it is, I think the key is that to talk it out and to give the person the grace to be honest. But then if you punish them for that honesty,
right.
and you then like
right. That's where
you don't move on from it. I think that then you're telling the other person that they don't have the ability to be honest. And I think that that's where we get it really. That's where we've got it right. We've
gotten it right.
We have the tough conversation wherever we're at. We don't simmer. We have it out. And when we move on from it, we really do move on from it. And that is also our standard with the friends in our life, with our like coworkers, our employees, like that is just who we are. And I think we actually do have, we do have this right. And I'd rather be this way than the other, because there are times where it's like, yeah, you have to have a tough conversation with a friend or have something out, and you have that uncomfortable conversation and you handle it from that point on in a way that you would want them to do it if it was reversed, and then you move on from it. Like you don't punish them, you get back to normal as quick as possible and take away the things that you need to from it. And I think, and I can think of a handful of people in our lives, not you and I as a couple, but where friendships have kind of broken down. Or,
we could do a whole podcast on this. I was going to say this too.
That is like
that's a whole podcast.
There are people that, you know, either have like finally tell us that they've had conflict and they've been holding on to it for like years and never told us, or it's manifested its way in different ways, or they just, even if they talk it out, they hold a grudge after and they treat the person different. And that is like, in my opinion, I can't be around those people. Like I could no longer trust that how you behave and what you say to me is how you actually feel. If I then hear that you felt a different way for a while, or then I'm punished for being honest. And I think what we have right in our marriage is also what we have right in most of our adult relationships too.
Yeah. I was going to bring up this in business. I mean, you know, a lot of these stories. Yeah. But like I'm always shocked, like, what's your relationships like? Because this is how you operate. Like, this is clearly how you operate, where you pretend.
Yeah.
You're pretending, and then the moment that I've now established like a hard mirror, which is uncomfortable, you run or hide.
Can't handle it.
Or pretend that nothing ever happened like that. And you're like, are you insane?
I know. I do think that too sometimes. So like, I wonder what their marriage is like.
So I'm like, you probably, if you're hiding and running away from this, what do you hide and run away from, you know, your spouse?
At the end of the day,
which makes me not want to do business with people like that.
No.
Yeah.
It's just hard. It's hard to do business with them. It's hard to be friends with people like that. It would hard to be in a relationship with someone like that. At the end of the day, I do pride myself on, and I know you do too, on just like what you see is actually what you get. And so when people are like, oh, you're not very nice, like you're not very friendly to that person or whatever, it's like, I know, because I don't want to be friends with that person. I'm not like, that is the truth. Like, I'm not going, wouldn't you rather me be this way than be super nice to their face when I openly don't want to be their friend?
It's like why I have a hard time on social media, like cheerleading for people that I know are lying.
Exactly. It's like things that
you're lying.
At the end of the day, what you see is what you get.
I'm not going to cheer for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay. That's a long one, but we got it good. Okay. Last one. What have we got right when it comes to prioritizing quality time? Like, well, I put love languages here because
we talked about this a little bit already. But.
Yeah, but I just think for me, number one is just recognizing how the other person in the relationship feels loved. And I think we learned really early on that how you feel love and connection and how I feel love and connection are two completely different ways. And so that has obviously been an ongoing thing in our marriage, but I do think now what we have gotten right is that we fill the other person's cup in the way they need the cup to be filled versus the way we would want it reciprocated. Because, you know, I'm like a quality time and acts of service person, so I'd be like, look at all these things I'm doing for you, why don't you feel loved? And you'd be like, I need you to tell me, and I need physical touch, and I don't need either of those things. So I'd be like, I don't understand why you need it. I'm folding your laundry. I'm cleaning your house and folding your laundry. What do you mean?
It's,
you know?
Well, I think that in the tough part with this is like, you know that the other person likes it. I love quality time with you. I do.
Yeah, thanks.
But it's not my primary driver of feeling loved.
Right.
Just like you love the stuff that I feel loved from. So when you don't have from the other person, like you're like, you like spending time with me. Why aren't you spending time with me? It's extra hurtful for you.
Yeah.
It would still hurt me if like, why is Beth not wanting to hang out with me?
Yeah.
But it just would take slower.
It would be longer for you to realize.
Yeah. Whereas for me, it's really quick with the things that are my primary drivers. So this is the way that I do it now, and I've talked about this before, I think, with you. It's just my weird way of how I think about it is instead of using the word love, it's like, how does Beth feel actionable? Like, what is Beth's actions? What are Beth's actions? What are Beth's actions? And I have to keep reminding myself that, because when I say love, it's a really unconscious way to associate to my love languages. Mm. So I have to purposely, logically spell out for me what your love languages are, instead of saying like, how do I show up for Beth and love her? It's like, how do I spend time with Beth today? How do I do these specific actions that will show her, love? It's just a weird way that I do it. But by doing that, I'm playing into what it takes, because you like, both of us are action people, but also that's love for both of us. So when you aren't doing the actions, I feel less loved. When I'm not doing the actions, you feel less loved.
I know. I do think that like it ebbs and flows too. And I think all these 5 things fall into the same thing as like, people aren't mind readers. And and again, this has taken 15 years of us like overly communicating. Like, you want me to tell you how much I love you. I don't want you to tell me. I don't need to hear it. I need you to show me. Like, so I'm like, I need you to show me. Like, why couldn't you pick up your clothes? Like, why couldn't, like, it's like the little things. But it's just all of that communication, and then knowing it and loving the person enough to, it's like learning a different language. Yeah. Literally, I know it's like love languages, but it is like being bilingual when it comes to love. Right. It's like being and putting in the effort, because it's not natural for you. Yeah. It's not natural for a reason. And so you have to put in the effort. And there are some days when you're tired and you're like, I just can't put in the effort today and stuff. But it's like that over communication too. Like, there are some nights I'm just like, I am so tired. I have nothing left to give the day. It has nothing to do with you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not upset with you. I just really, really need to sleep. And I think then you're just, like, I'm having a really stressful day with work. And there have been times where I will like be coming home from traveling, and you'll be like, the house, you're going to die when you see the house. I just want you to be aware, like, you're going to come in, it's a mess. Like,
it's not often anymore, but I do forewarn you.
You do forewarn me, where you'll be like, listen, and it's not because we don't love you. It's just like, we've had a lot of other things like going on. And I think just like preparing, and just trying to speak that language as much as you can. Yeah, I think all 5 really kind of fall into that. And we've got it right. As far as when we say we've got it right, it doesn't mean we always get those things right. It's almost like we've figured out what that person needs. But I think marriage is like, it's just such a verb, isn't it? Like, it's just, it's a legal contract, like, by definition. But I mean, marriage is literally a doing word. Like, it's never, you can't coast.
No, it's
as much as you want to. Yeah. Sometimes, like, it's a doing word.
Yeah, but the energy, I mean, it is a reflection too. Like,
what do you mean by that?
The more energy you put into the other person, the more you get back, if the person's equally as committed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we've learned in 15 years, really. What's like your biggest takeaway?
I think as I've gotten older too, I think, I've realized that you actually do feel loved in all 5 love languages. You just love being taken care of, which is really interesting.
I do.
But you're a dynamic individual, because you love to be taken care of in all of those love languages, because you do, like, all of them. I've seen you in every part. And, but you also don't want to be taken care of too.
I know. I'm just so difficult.
No, I'm not saying you're difficult.
I'm just like I am.
No,
no.
Cube.
No, I'll be the first to admit. Like I'm in my brain. Sometimes I'm like, you just don't know what you want.
Yeah. But also, the more I've understood myself, it's there are parts of the love languages, but mostly I just want to be respected and like adored, and like that's when you show up in those ways. It's just interesting because I think that when I feel like you are doing those things, you just have gotten so much better at it over the years. Because I'm dynamic and unique too. Because sometimes I want you to take care of me, and other times I'm like, do not do any of this.
Yeah, I think,
and we're both dynamic in that way. But like we've learned each other's unique languages. So like when I guess what I'm trying to say is it's too easy to say like just the 5 love languages, because men are kind of don't fall into some of those categories sometimes. Sometimes they just want to build things and create things and do things, and they just want respect and adoration.
Yeah.
But other times they do fall into those 5 love languages too. But that's everybody. I guess that's my point.
I don't know if it is everybody, but I do know for us, it's like we have personas outside of our marriage that, you're definitely an alpha male and like couldn't care less what other people think of you and just say it how it is. But then when it comes to me, I do want tenderness and softness. And
I do care what you think.
Build up, and you want like a soft place to land. And then same for me. Like when I'm outside of the marriage, it's like literally couldn't care less what you have to say, what you have to do, and I'm just going to beat to my own drum. And I have a lot of very masculine energy, but then within the marriage, it's like I need a safe place to land, and it's almost like when I like here, I want you to take. Can someone for once take care of me? Is how I feel. It needs to be this safe place, and I think probably if men and women were honest. And it's taken me years to get really, like at least a decade to get really honest about that need. But I think if everyone wants a soft place to land where they can show up and be adored and loved and babied as an adult. And wouldn't it be amazing if that soft place was your spouse?
That's it.
And I think when it is, you can work through everything else. And when there's that loyalty and that bond of like, you can come to me and be your most vulnerable and be your most broken and be like, and I know that you've got my back at the end of the day and we're in this together. And, I always say if there's not loyalty, it's like you can have love without loyalty. You can have family without loyalty. You can have a marriage without loyalty. Loyalty to me is like the pinnacle of what I expect out of love.
Yeah.
So when you have that though, then you have this safe space to work through everything else. And I think that I'm not a marriage counselor at all, clearly, but that would just be my advice, is just creating an environment with your spouse where there is this unwavering loyalty, and then you can create that soft space to land, and everything else won't be perfect, but you can figure it out.
Yeah, my pillars were, what I was going to say is that the pillars are, I'm not sorry, I'm adding to this. My pillars are, because anytime that I feel this from you, I feel like I'm at my most powerful like response back to you, is it's respect, trust, and loyalty are the pillars.
Yeah.
But the energy is love.
That makes sense.
The energy is love, because that's the thing that keeps those pillars like upright and moving.
Yeah.
But without them, the whole thing crumbles, in my opinion. And that's at least what I've observed.
Well, without that, it really is just a legal contract.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, like, you can have respect and loyalty and have no love energy in the marriage too.
Yeah, I guess that's
true.
So
I'm very visual, and I have like weird diagrams in my own head, but that's how I look at it.
Weird,
but I feel like it's kind of like the Tesla coils between those 3 pillars is love. That energy, you don't have anything, but you don't have anything to communicate the energy unless you have those pillars of respect, respect, trust, and loyalty. I feel like without those 3, you see weak relationships. You do.
Well, amazing. Well, here we are. Well, thank you for coming on, Brad. That's it. Like, we've wrapped it up. We made it.
Wait, what's your key takeaway?
We just did it.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we just did it, Brad. We've
love
literally,
that.
I mean, we've been banging on for 47 minutes. Yapping like
freaking
out,
chinwag.
literally out of control.
I can't believe I got invited on a chinwag.
I know.
Here we are.
I know. Here we are. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
Find me?
Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah.
You can find me at our house.
No. What's your Instagram handle?
Brad_Clifford. Our company is Elevation Health, which is a sponsor of the Beth Effect.
Thank you.
At elevationhealth.com, spelled with an E, not an A. And yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, TikTok.
All the things. Amazing. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of The Beth Effect. Please do not forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this episode with those that you think will enjoy it too. Follow at the Beth Clifford on Instagram or TikTok for behind the scenes. And I will be back next week. Thanks for listening.
Do you know what's next week?
I do.
All right. Are you going to tease?
No, I'm not. Okay. See you next week. Thanks, guys.